toast. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Just trying to do some cleanup before I finish it up. Yes, we do. Someone's saying, yes, we do. Dropping the camera and everything. It does, doesn't it? Hi, Baba. What's up?
Right now.
What?
I'm so mad right now. Because I need 17 flowers and I only have two spider ones and one thing that I can get from Butcher's Creek, and every time I do a mission, come back to the same location, it didn't come back. And I tried everything that it could make it come back, and it's making me mad.
Sorry, I don't know how to fix it. I don't know. You'll figure it out. You're smart.
Like 50,000.
My poor son's having a little meltdown because he's trying to solve all the missions on Red Dead Redemption 2, and he can't do it. It's actually wildly, incredibly entertaining. I'm not a gamer at all, but I do play Grand Theft Auto, online, just for the fun of it. But Red Dead Redemption 2 I'm like, I've got to try this. And it's the single most entertaining game ever in the existence of ever. Now, take that from a guy who doesn't game at all, but it's everything I would have ever wanted in a game. Like free roaming, run around, felt very realistic and believable as much as you can in a game. Yeah, it's... I'm also a little bit of a cheater in that I'm not one who wants to like, I don't have the time or the interest in like discovering everything naturally. So I got online and found out like, what are the things to find in the game? It's like, go here, do this, do that. This is where you find this is where you find that. And so I just kind of did that to just get a good playthrough. For me, it doesn't diminish it at all. And again, I didn't want to waste too much time on it, and I wasted a lot of time on it. But it was worth it. It's super fun.
The all-new Tempur-Pedic Adapt mattress was designed to help make aches and pains a thing of the past because only Tempur material eases your pressure points in a way no other mattress can. Tempur-Pedic.
Yeah, that's fair. I can see how in the case of Red Dead Redemption 2 that discovering all the infinite amount of random stuff that just happens to be in there would be far more rewarding in the long run than reading about it, I'm like, oh, you could go here and find this, or here's where that is, or here's this creepy thing. You know, I can understand the fun of discovering it naturally, but I got comics to draw, so that's how I tell myself. I'm like, I'm just gonna rush through it. Well, not rush through it, but basically. God damn it. Thanks, Jonathan Quick. Jonathan Quick, you're asking for advice on how to draw noses? There's really only one answer, sir. I'll tell you the same thing that I was told by Ryan Otley, the guy who draws Invincible and lots of other stuff, if you know who that is. He lives here in Utah, and I've met him a couple of times. And one of the first times I met him, he says, get a sketchbook, draw from life, and fill up a sketchbook, for example, with nothing but hands. Just nothing but hands in every conceivable position. And you get another sketchbook and fill it up with noses. Look at pictures. Just Google photos of noses and then just start drawing and just start seeing the shapes and the shadows. Play around where you're only doing the extreme shadows on the undersides of it, and then you're not drawing the extreme highlighted area, and then you're lightly rendering the midpoints, and just start figuring out where all the shapes are. And just draw from life. Just start drawing a bunch of noses, and then if you want to draw it in comic books after the fact, you'll have drawn it so realistically so many times in practice that you'll eventually just start getting it. It just starts like you'll start understanding how to produce I don't know what the word is, like a kind of a faked version of it because you've drawn it so many times from life. There's nothing to say about tips on how to draw really beyond just start drawing. You know, go, especially if it's like just a body part, just go find pictures of that body part and start drawing it. Hi Andrew, what's up?
Still mad about the thing, so I'm doing my missions. I'm thinking I'm gonna get the spider one, so I want the Butcher's Creek and doing missions to see if that will make it reload.
All right, that sounds fun. That's also fair, okay, comics. You know, I shouldn't use my brother as an example, but I've tried to tell him, but he won't listen to me, and he's gotten a little better. But he used to just draw, I think I've heard other professional artists call them ciphers, meaning like generic shapes that sort of look like a nose, for example, but they're not really attempting to draw it from life. Like, let me get a piece of paper. Like, it's almost like the way a kid would draw. Like, a kid would draw a bird like this, right? Just those little M shapes. But that's not what a bird looks like. It's the same thing with drawing a nose. Like, my brother would draw, like, the main part of the nose, and he'd draw a nostril, and then a big old round thing, and then he'd draw a nostril, and then a big old round thing like that. And all his noses would look like that. Like, well, that's what a cartoon nose looks like, you know? Or I can't even imagine what like a generic shape of an eye would look like. But you have to learn to, like, if you're gonna draw a nose, start seeing some three-dimensionality to it, and and seeing that, you know, where the nose meets the cheek, there's some darkness to it. There's the bridge of the nose. You find the little upper lip. And then you can start adding little cross hatchings, just something to start giving it some life. But you can't come up with anything like this on your own without looking at what the hell they really look like, you know? Or do like some people do and, you know, use AI, right? Right, Gaten? I mean, does that make sense? Like, you have to look at what, you can't just draw what you think a nose is. You just draw one. Just look at one. You know? Like, let's do a little art exercise. I'm going to pull up Google. Or a pit style nose. There you go. That's an easy way to do it. Just typed in a human nose. Let's just like that's a good way of putting it, OK Comics, what you call a stamp. Kids who want to learn to draw anime style, so they learn one eye, one nose, one face shape, and just use it over and over. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. So, like, how about, you know, this guy's nose right here? It's not terribly detailed, but you still gotta, I don't know. Just look at the nose. There's a little... And then you can see under the nose there's a little shadow under there. You could even indicate a little highlight like there. There's obviously some lines over here. And then this crease coming off the nose and into the cheek like that. I mean, there's an example, you know. There's just a version of it. And then you also got to learn to draw it from a down angle, an up angle. That's a hard one where the head's tipped back. That's tricky because it becomes this whole other weird shape. You know, let's look at this guy right here. So, all right. Then these nostrils. And then there's a highlighted part on there. You don't have to draw the highlight, but at least kind of lets you know kind of what you're looking at. Then a lot of times it's kind of just darker under the nose. Throw some cross-hatching lines to give it kind of that shadow under it. So, I don't know. There's another kind of example. Just start doing this. And then once you start doing it, you can then pare it down, like these drawings that you've done, to just like a basic line work and kind of come up with something simple. You know, you don't have to do all this realistic rendering on a comic page, but you can kind of get the basic shapes down and come up with your noses. Are you talking about the scribble exercise where he had his kid do this thing, whatever, and then he turned it into something? Is that what you're talking about there? I should, but no. I haven't. Yeah, it's pretty shocking how Otley is just beyond insane good. I've followed him for years. I've known of him. I've met him a couple of times, and I'm just like, his ability to do what he does is just insane. It's so good. He's so creative, and he's just draw all the time. And I'm sure that's every comic artist, right? Like, you don't get good unless you're always drawing. I don't do sketching as much as I should. I just find that, as dumb as this sounds, this is not an excuse or replacement for it, but I'm like, if I'm going to practice drawing, I'm just going to practice drawing on my page. Yeah, he's more intimidating than anything else. Yeah, I kind of agree. He's really good. Have you seen that creature that he made called the Majestic Bicornuclops? Which I think is one of the funniest things ever. He took a unicorn and swapped its eyes and its horn. So it's got like one eye and like dual horns. So it's the Bicornuclops, and I think I'm saying it right. It's one of the most creative things ever. He used to kind of draw that silly thing all the time, and I loved it. Steve Yanis, who is Otley? We're talking about Ryan Otley. He's the artist. His claim to fame, in my opinion, is he was the primary artist on Invincible. If you're aware of that comic series, it's an animated series on Amazon, is it? He didn't start the series, but the guy who was drawing the book could not keep up with the deadlines. And so Robert Kirkman went out scoping out websites and either found Otley on Pencil Jack or Digital Webbing and offered him the gig. And the rest is history. Yeah, I saw Grizzly Shark. That comic is funny, man. There was Sea Bear and Grizzly Shark, right? But yeah, that Invincible comic was incredible. I loved every issue of it. It had a few like ups and downs in terms of like, sometimes it's not always going to be completely interesting. But overall, there was stuff done in Invincible as a comic that, as a guy who'd been reading comics for years at that point, I've never seen ever done anywhere else. Like, I was like, holy shit, they are shocking the hell out of me. And I remember Robert Kirkman listing Savage Dragon as an inspiration for like, I'm going to show you stuff in a superhero comic you've never seen before. Beware the page turn, because you don't know what's coming. And Invincible was that. And again, if they have that animated series, follow the comic as they are. There is some incredible shit coming up. The instant you see or hear a thing referring to conquest, holy shit. And that should be an upcoming major storyline really soon, I believe. terms of superhero battles. No, the art style, if you're asking if Invincible was similar to Dragon, no, not the art style. We're talking about the writing in the terms of the connection to Savage Dragon, where it's like it's superhero comics and you're seeing a lot of stuff that's at the surface level looks familiar, but the writer taking it and going in some wild, insane directions that is far from the standard, safe Marvel and DC tried and true nonsense. Yeah, it announced itself as the best superhero comic and it delivered. Are you talking about the last issue? You liked it or you didn't like it? You know, the problem for me, OK Comics, is that I collected every damn issue, and for some reason, I can't remember why, my comic shop never got me a copy of the actual last issue. I was so fucking mad, and I kept yelling at him, like respectfully yelling at him, like, where the fuck, like, find me a copy. And like, we can't find one, sorry, we missed you. I'm like, of all the issues, you make me miss the final one. And so I got to read, somebody forwarded me a digital copy, and so I did get to read it. But I've only read it the one time. And I honestly don't remember exactly what happened. So I can't speak on it exactly, except I wasn't disappointed. I just knew that Otley and Kirkman, God fucking damn it, chose to end the book. As I understand it, Otley kind of wanted to move on and do something else. He'd been drawing it for years and kind of asked about doing something else. And I think Kirkman was like, how about this? I got a proposal for you. If you can stay on for a bit more, let's just end it and end it on our terms. It was doing great sales-wise. So, you know, I wouldn't use the term cancellation because they chose to end it. It was still doing great. They would talk often about how well it was doing. It was a great success. So I think that was interesting of Otley. He probably gave him kind of like, all right, that's fair. You know, I'll hang on until we write ourselves an ending to this and be done with it. But I gotta find me a damn copy of that final issue. Like I said, I've only ever read it once. And I can't remember what happened exactly. Yeah, that Invincible book. If you thought you knew where it was going, I would say no way. And like, I don't want to like verbalize it out loud for anybody who's watching the cartoon and never read the comic. I do not want to ruin anything. But again, the stuff that they got coming up, they follow it through. Yeah, and you don't want to see bored Otley work. And I like, it's one of those rare instances in modern comics where you got to see consistently the same guy drawing the book. And so you get a consistent vision. And whenever he need a fill-in, it was, I wish I could remember the name of the guy who drew it originally. They'd bring him in often to do like a couple issue fill-ins to give Otley a break. I'd know it if I heard it. I'd be like, right. But it's nice to have a comic where everything is the same artist for the majority of the time. It feels consistent. What inspired me to do away with He-Man's bangs? I hate it. It looks stupid. So I just give him just long hair consistently all the way around. I tried to keep his look mostly the same, but I couldn't do the bangs. I just couldn't do it. Mohammed, how is it going? It is a great day. There's a He-Man haircut reference to it? Alright. Well, when you put it that way. You don't recognize that one? It's relatively newer. Composed by Hans Zimmer. It's actually the first Dune soundtrack, but it is Dune. Some of my most favorite movies in modern years. Yeah, Muhammad. I felt like it had a very strong kind of like, I don't know what else, how else to say it, like a Middle Eastern kind of religious vibe to it more than anything else. But yeah, it's a very kind of a mixed, futuristic version of similar stuff that we recognize. Very different in some ways, like magical worm dragons and magical sand dust. I know we're talking about the religious aspect of it, but yeah. That's interesting, Mohammed. That's awesome. And again, I'm no expert on any of it, but I think it's a really interesting movie and story. One of these days, I need to read the book. William Magnoni? I hope I'm saying that right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. This hair has taken some time, but my pen was throwing some solid lines for a rare occasion, so I wanted to get all this hair in here and all these lines while I had it throwing the ink the way I wanted it to. Well, Stephen, the trick is with many things, there's not really one exact continuity. I'm not sure if He-Man started as the action figures first, and then because they had these little mini comics that they would sell that with the action figures. And as I understand it, I've never read any of them, but I've seen bits and pieces of them, that they weren't exactly coordinated in their stories. So even the mini comics that came with the action figures were contradictory to each other. And then there's been multiple comic storylines. There's been four different animated series. My dumbass doing my own thing. So I am basing mine only on the 80s cartoon and everything that they said there. And as far as the 80s cartoon, it's just that Prince Adam, at one point, he was, for whatever reason, he was chosen by the sorceress to give him that sword because he's pure of heart or whatever, and be the, the defender of Grayskull because he's just a good dude. He was just born to his king father and his mother, who's actually from Earth. She's like an astronaut from Earth. But there's not much backstory to it in terms of the 80s cartoon. But again, that's just a super simple storyline. But then if you want to go into the comics, the mini comics, the DC Comics printed stuff, the other animated series, it's all variations. So it just depends on which one you kind of give a shit about. There's no definitive origin, like Superman. Comes from Krypton, it was going to explode, his parents sent him to Earth, Krypton exploded, Superman's the last surviving son of that planet. A basic, simple storyline. But He-Man, I don't think there is one. I'm not sure what episode that is, Mohammed. I love South Park. If that you're talking about South Park, or you mentioned Family Guy. South Park. We were talking the other night about all those freaking insanely hilarious episodes. Like, how could we pick just one to be our favorite? Yeah, South Park, yeah. There's D-Man. Welcome to Rob's place, right? What's cracking, D-Man? Well, again, as far as I know, based on the 80s cartoon, yeah, when Prince Adam is just human, he's just a human guy. He doesn't have any strength or anything. But in the cartoon, he gets the sword, it changes his armor, his outfit, but it gives him like the Superman level strength. Like almost infinite levels of strength. He's pushed planets around. He-Man can get knocked out. That's happened a couple of times in the cartoon. I don't know that I'd say that he's like got an invincible hide like Superman, but so yeah, that's basically the thing. The sword grants him, it gives him access to the power, as I understand it. The sword is like a key to access the power that he has. Excuse me. Beast, I definitely remember you. How could we forget? Yeah, Steven, exactly. Yeah, the sword, it just, again, it's the key, it's the access to the power. So he just, without Cringer's consent, blasts him with the power. And I watched a video that was doing a breakdown of He-Man. They said that Cringer was also, like, when he becomes Battle Cat, that he's part dragon. Like that's kind of part of what he is. I'm like, I've never heard that before. I don't know how true that is. It's an interesting concept. And it was also implied, and maybe this in some other continuities, that if Battle Cat stayed in his Battle Cat form for too long, he would eventually kind of become uncontrollable. Which I'm like, I never heard that in the 80s cartoon, so I don't know. But it's a really interesting idea. I would think so, Steven, the way it kind of seems to be. That's why it's like such a precious thing to not let get in the hands of some douchebag like Skeletor. But that would seem to be the implication, like pointed at Orko or some shit. Because he's special, D-Man. He's a special kitty. I do have Cringer Battle Cat in my comic, but very limited, and he never talks. Because I just can't make that work. But I did address the why he never talks. I feel like it was an interesting kind of addition. No, I mean, I wouldn't say I've ever thought of Cringer like that. I mean, it's his pet, but he's also a sentient being, so he's just as... he can verbalize anything the way any person could be, so it's literally He-Man's best friend. They were together since they were children. So it's his partner in crime, or, you know, whatever the heroic equivalent would be. It's his best friend. It's his most trusted ally. But he is different because he is a walking, talking kitty. D-Man, I never literally once ever thought that about her in those old cartoons. She was such a sweet character before they screwed her up in the later versions. She did have booty showing, and I liked it. I'm not gonna fault her for booty. Well, in my comic, D-Man, they get with each other. And there's an actual, well, I was going to say it's a sex scene. You don't actually see any sex, but you do see them pressing their nakedness together. I was like, yeah, it's time for these young adults to be actual adults and get together. And they do. Well, it's one and the same person, but it's He-Man. Seahawk was cock blocking him. Yeah, no more cock blocking for He-Man. That cock blocking Seahawk. Seahawk the cock block. Maybe He-Man's dick gets bigger. D-Man, did you ever hear me talk about when I was trying to do some research for my He-Man comic here? I looked up Masters of the Universe comics online, and I found an extremely, extremely X-rated, like, porn comic that somebody had made that went on for like 40 pages. And it was everything that you would think it would be. But, it actually had what I thought was actually a legitimately interesting concept. Like, truly. Somebody had an idea that I was like, that's actually really interesting. And that idea was, again, because it's a porn comic, so of course it's all about sex. Adam was as flaming gay as could possibly be imagined. Like, it would cut to him, like, banging on a couple of, like, palace guard dudes. But then when he becomes He-Man, he becomes an angry, staunch heterosexual, like, I will fuck women only. And he's like this angry monster. And so he's the complete opposite of Adam. And I was like, that's funny that the power, like the concept of the power, given him different personality in a way. And that it was that such a wide swing from flaming gay to hardcore chicks only. I was like, that's actually kind of clever. I was laughing my ass off in between all the pages of bodily fluids flying everywhere. Even Orko got in on it. He lifted up his little dress thing and whipped out a big old purple trawling hog. Should be the name of my next comic. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at my own jokes. Oh my god. I'm sorry. Oh my god. Mark, you come in at the wrong time, brother. Oh, Jesus, Lord. Oh. Yeah, It was probably safer. Oh my god. Oh god. I don't know why I thought my own stupid joke was that funny. I never do. It's not that funny, but ugh. Whew. Gather myself. I don't know what Adam's age is supposed to be. Again, I'm just going after the 80s cartoon, and to me, he's clearly like 18 plus. I'd say 19, 20, something like that. Young guy. I don't like versions of him where he's a fucking like 16-year-old kid. I'm not into like teenage superheroes, really. I don't buy it. I like grown-ass adults doing grown-ass adult shit. Not exclusively. I mean, obviously it can work, but I'm not interested in Spider-Man as a teenager as much as I am interested in him in a grown man doing shit. But I also look at the way how buff that Adam is. I'm like, you can't be that ripped 16 years old. Yeah, I get it, D-Man, but again, the only version I'm going off of is the original 80s cartoon. And they were adults, as far as I was concerned. Even if young adults. So... Yeah, Man-at-Arms was the adoptive father. It's never been made what known who her actual biological father is. So we know her adoptive father and biological mother. So yeah, Mohammed, I do thumbnails like these, like this right here. This rough sketch is this rough sketch for this page. So I work out the story in big chunks. I have the basic plot written down, and then I take and work out the visuals on scrap paper like these, so we can see, like this one. You can see where I got like the guy flying and then a group shot of people and a guy running, and then that's what I did in the page here. So yeah, if that's what you're asking, Mohammed, I just kind of sketch it all out to have the story kind of worked out, and then I just go to the final pages. Well, Muhammad, in my understanding, that's kind of, I mean, that's how you figure out a story, you know? You write it down, and then you break it down visually in terms of like comics. As far as I know, that's how every comic artist does a version of that. You know, you gotta sit down and figure it out somewhere. Like, you can't just go straight to the board. I mean, I think some do, but you got to be really super talented for that, or just kind of free-forming it. But when you want to get a book to fit within a certain amount of pages, and you're given a script, you got to like, all right, let me see how I can break this down and fit it into the allotted number of pages. Now, I'm not really concerned about page count on this thing. I'm going to print it up at however fucking big it needs to be. This is why my books get to be so big. I do pay attention to page count a little bit, but ultimately I'm like, I'm going to draw it the way I want it. I'm going to let the story be visually told the way I want to do it. And if it takes 120 pages or more, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, Steven. Yeah, it's basically storyboarding. Yeah, that's what you're doing. Count Chocula, my man. Yeah, it's quite the pile of pages if I were to count them up. All of them together. Yeah, no problem, Mohammed. I appreciate you the question. You know, it's always fun to talk process. Yours is going to be 36, Shocula. That's all right. You know, I'm not saying everyone's book's got to be a massive, unbelievable undertaking like mine. But like I've said, I just want to finally tell this story, and I want to tell it the way that it needs to be told in its entirety. So I am making it a lot of pages. And for anybody that buys them, I want them to feel like they get their bang for their buck. You know? Yeah, there's that too. If you got to pay a guy. This is the weird part. Like, I draw the entire figure, but He-Man's ripped apart. He's, after his fight with Beast-Man, he's been stabbed in the gut and the sides and ripped apart. So I have to, like, cover this entire drawing in, like, blood, like, everywhere. And it's kind of counterintuitive to, like, be drawing all this random shit all over him. But he's got to look like he's bleeding out. Because he is. So Shocula, when I started this thing, if you would have asked me years ago, Fisto wasn't even part of the cast. But as I kind of got the main story that I wanted done, the first 3 books, which I think you have, and I started kind of progressing in my head of where they were going to go, I eventually added Fisto and then started building on where the story was going to go, and he became a major player, in a way, the star of the book. And he was never my favorite character. This is where I'm going to sound egotistical. In the cartoon, he's stupid. I mean, he was kind of fine. He wasn't stupid, but he's kind of a gag. Everyone's like, oh, look, the guy with the giant fist. He takes it in the ass. But the version of him that I've written, and this is where I'm going to sound egotistical, I'm like, I kind of like the story that I've written for him. He's kind of become one of my favorite characters. I enjoy the stuff that I have him doing and what he's going to do. And like, I made She-Ra fall in love with him. And I feel like it's earned. And I hope that that comes across to people who actually get to read the book. And, you know, I hope that people kind of follow along with what I'm getting at and hope that it translates over into like, okay, I believe it. I buy that. So we'll see. Jessica's into it. She's been a fan of it. And she doesn't know anything about the characters per se, so yeah, he's kind of become my favorite, but it's because of the version that I wrote, as dumb as that sounds. I mean, a guy with a giant metal glove. Oh, I thought about having more characters from Etheria show up, D-Man, but it was mostly just a consideration of time and space. So I tried to address it, at least in the story, like have She-Ra say, like, I contacted Etheria, I told them I'm staying here, I've got shit to do, things are not wrapped up. Yeah, he's a fun visual. It's a pain in the fucking ass because Fisto, and I changed his costume around. I got rid of his bare legs and the fur diaper. In fact, I got rid of the fur diaper on everyone except He-Man. But, I mean, his giant glove has like a bunch of studded things around the upper, forearm, and then around his wrist, and then around his hand, and then the harness around his chest, and then around his belt. So there's all these fucking circles I'm drawing. But it's kind of his defining look, so I'm like, I just got to deal with it. Yeah, Clamp Champ, that's another character I'd barely even heard of. But yeah, isn't the only brother on Eternia? I mean... Yeah, okay, comics. It certainly gives him definitive, like, visual, like a big, giant metal hand. And, drawn like the full beard. My version of Fisto, because in the cartoon, he liked to hang out in the forest, So I took him as, he's kind of like a mountain man. Just like a guy that'd be wearing like a plaid button-up shirt with an axe chopping down trees, living in the forest. That's my version of Fisto. Just kind of a natural guy, a guy that likes nature, doesn't want to be around cities and shit. But yeah, the fur diaper, I gotta leave He-Man in that, because that's kind of definitive look for him, but fucking not everybody needs to wear the goddamn fur diaper. It's kind of silly. Fisto's, he could be. That's fair. Fisto joins Alpha Flight. He might, man. That's true, OK Comics. Everyone said that about everybody, especially in this version of... I just kind of ignore all that.
In this time, the most precious substance in the universe is the spice melange. The spice extends life. The spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel. The spacian guild and its navigators, who the spice has mutated over 4,000 years, use the orange spice gas, which gives them the ability to fold space. That is, travel to any part of the universe without moving. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you. The spice exists on only one planet in the entire universe. Desolate, dry planet with vast deserts. Hidden away within the rocks of these deserts are people known as the Fremen, who have long held a prophecy of man Messiah, who would lead them to true freedom. The planet is Arrakis, also known as Dune.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance and I saved hundreds.
That's great.
I know, I've been telling everyone.
Liberty. Liberty. How many people did you tell?
Only paid for what you need.
Liberty, liberty, liberty.
Liberty.
Thanks, OK Comics. I appreciate that. Expressions are hard. Not gonna lie. And some of those guys that kind of get those subtle expressions in their faces. I think of J. Scott Campbell as one of those guys who can really get all kinds of expressions. Yeah, it's not easy. So to keep her angry but still kind of pretty. So well, thank you. I mean, yeah, I appreciate that. That was my goal. I want her to look roughed up, but she still got to look like herself. I mean, I've already shown this page, so it's not like it's a surprise, but in the next page, I mean, she gets half her body like scorched in laser flame, so she's going to look like half a like melted flesh zombie. Half her face, arm, leg. I'm listening to the original soundtrack, Wesley. I was listening to the new movie score, but it ended. And I've always been a fan of the old Dune movie. I know not a lot of people are, but I actually really like it. And I've always liked the original score to that David Lynch weird-ass, trippy fucking movie. From Zimmer to right, exactly. A lot of people give a lot of shit to that movie and that score, but I like it because it was so weird, and it had some really interesting, like, parts to it. I actually legitimately like it. I legit like it. One of the things I really, really liked about the original Dune movie that I was hoping would see in the new movie, but then it was pointed out to me that it wasn't ever in the books. It was made for the movie. Was the sound vibration weapons? They call them the weirding modules, where it was like amplified vibration sounds to like amplify it and focus it and fire vibration waves to like blow up things. I'm like, what a fucking neat idea! Like hyper advanced vibrations as a weapon. I'm like, I can't wait to see them do that in the new movie. And somebody was like, that was made for that movie. That's not in the book. I'm like, well, fuck me then. D-Man, I didn't draw every character in my book, just the major ones, the important ones, the relevant ones. So there's no Clamp Champ or Whiplash. What's the good guy lizard guy? Looked like a salamander that hung around with the heroes. I forget his name. Oh yeah, I remember King Hiss. I know there's like a tribe of lizard people in the He-Man lore. We don't see them. Actually, you kind of do. They're in the background of a battle scene one time, but that was it. Literally lizard man. Okay, right. That's it's too obvious. That's why I couldn't think of it. But yeah, okay, comics makes sense to come up with sound weapons when you can't use lasers. But yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was a really neat idea. No, D-Man, or D-Man, sorry, Count Chocula, sorry. I know you've only got the first 3 books, so, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but rather just let you know that the continuing books, there are no more cameos from any other 80s properties. That's all done in the first ones. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no. I'm going through my head. There's still slight kind of the Lion-O Thundercats kind of connection, but beyond that, no more. Like people are like, are the Care Bears going to show up? I'm like, no. Is G.I. Joe going to show up? No. G.I. Joe would get their ass slaughtered by these Masters of the Universe guys. So, but yeah, all the cameos of 80s guys were all done in those first 3 books. Again, just because there's just not enough time for everything. I can't do it. I can't do it all. In fact, I was talking about, there was an idea that I had to abandon just for time that I really, really wanted to do. And it was to kind of tail off the end of the Sharkticons, the Quintessons from the Transformers that were in the original first 3 books that I did. I had this idea of having Trapjaw, like somehow some Sharkticons, like the ones from the original animated movie of Transformers, got left behind when the Quintessons showed up, and I was going to have Trapjaw find them and kind of take them over as like robotic beasts of burden, like have Trapjaw riding around on a Sharkticon like it's his steed, and there's 2 others, like he has 3 of them, and they just kind of become, because the Sharkticons are mindless drone idiots, so they just basically followed the technological guy Trapjaw and became his pets. And I loved the idea, like somebody was going to contact Fisto and his team because they're a team of like, you know, hired guns. And so Fisto sends Trapjaw to this far off village where there's like these scared people. They're like, there are these monsters in the forest. We don't know what they are. They're scaring the shit out of us. And so Trapjaw would go into it, and there's just those Sharkticons just sitting around confused and lost. They don't know what to do with themselves. They're not mindless killing machines. They just don't have anyone to give them orders. And so Trapjaw befriends them, for lack of a better term, like can get in there and kind of reprogram them as he needs because he's the tech guy. And they just become his like warrior mechanical pets, these giant fucking essentially Transformers. I had this idea of him like riding around on them, sending him into battle to fight this fucking demon monster. Ba weep grana, weep nini bon. Hell yeah, Shanti. But the story was already getting too big, and I'm like, I really, really, really want to put that in there. But if I don't add the lead up to that story, now I just have to add more pages to the story, and then I have to be drawing those fucking things in here all the time. So I just abandoned it. I had to let it go, and it kind of makes me sad because I found it to be a really interesting concept in my mind. You're our kind of people, Sean. You identify with Sharkticons because you are confused, lost, and wish to destroy. I think most of us can identify with that. When I say I want to destroy, I just means I like want to destroy like a lady, but in like that naughty way. I will ruin her. I will destroy her. But then I talk a big game and I can't show up and perform right. So then I fail. Then I start wanting to destroy for real. I know that did sound like Castlevania music. But no, it was more Dune, the original Dune soundtrack. Yeah, don't go all psycho like the narrator in Fight Club. I am Jack's raging sense of destruction. Well, is that He-Man bloody enough? Shockula. Like, one of the missions that we don't get to see is they traveled the multiverse. Thing is, I know you don't agree with me. I like Kevin Smith, even when he's made some goof-ups. I actually like him. So, I can't hate on him too much. I feel like if I were to put my He-Man books in his hands and say, read this shit, this is the cartoon you guys should have made, he might go, God damn, that's way better than what I wrote. Hell, I heard that last year he admitted himself to a mental health facility because he was having some childhood traumas come up and he was actually thinking about killing himself. I'm like, what the fuck? I guess he had some unresolved childhood shit going on that I was actually shocked to read about. And I just found this out like 3 or 4 days ago. Well, I would think a brush with death would rewire anyone. He got his health under control.
When you crave it all, crunchy, meaty, cheesy goodness,
I know he's eventually stopped smoking pot, which he should have a long time ago. But I guess he just started like having some realizations about some shit that happened, and he was kind of in a bad place and admitted himself to a mental health facility. I'm like, Jesus, God, man. This is the guy that I felt was like the most well-adjusted guy probably out there. You know? I guess the thing is everyone's got something. Everyone's got some problem, unresolved trauma, sadness, difficulty, shit that we carry with us. I know I do. I think I'm aware of it, and I think I've got it appropriately tucked away, so it'll just come raging out in about 20 years or so, but not anytime soon. Yeah, Sean, yeah, I agree with you, Sean T. Just what you said right there. I agree with you. Yeah. Not everything's gonna work. And, you know, maybe his best work was his first couple of movies and that's it, you know? I think his strength lies in his conversational skills. Those evenings with Kevin Smith where he's just talking, telling stories, sharing things. That's his strength. Honestly, in a way, in a dumb little way, I try to channel that, like, ability to just talk with confidence whenever I'm talking on my videos, because I've always been a shy guy. Like, you put me in front of a crowd of people and say speak, I'll probably fold up. But I honestly find myself, I sit down and I'll have a book open and I'm going to start talking about it, and the more I sit there and think about it, the more I start coming. I'll fail. I don't think about it. I just turn the camera on and start talking, and I just let it come out of me. And like I said, I kind of try to like channel how entertaining and easy to listen to Kevin Smith was in those evenings with Kevin Smith, you know, where he's just talking to a crowd. It's one of the inspirations for how I do what I do, and I guess it's kind of working. I mean, the channel keeps growing for some damn reason. Yeah, I'll agree with you there, D-Man. Ha, Sean. Holy shit. Right? Well, I'm coming up on 50, so internalize and compartmentalize it until it blows up. Detonates in our mid-50s. Yeah, I'm 47, so that's what I was saying. My shit's about to pop anytime. You're at OK Comics is going to go the Michael Douglas route. Yep. Mohammed, I guess it depends on what kind of how you deal with your shit now. If you've got any shit to deal with, which I think every human being does. But I think that one of the problems is I mean, I can't speak for where you're at, your culture, but for a long time, you know, no one gives a shit about men in terms of like them failing or having weaknesses or problems. It's like, oh, you're not surviving, fucking deal with it. You know, men's mental health. Just deal with it. And men keep it quiet and keep it to themselves because they're going to like, I got to solve this problem for my family. I'm going to solve this problem for my wife and for my kids because I'm here to take care of them. But no one gives a shit if a dude's having a hard time. It's like, fucking deal with it, you know? And that's not okay. That's not cool. But I mean, I think if you find meaning in life, honestly, to get for real, if you find meaning in life, it tends to solve a lot of problems. And I think in America, we've generated a culture of people with zero meaning in their lives. And so they're making up things to give their lives meaning, and it's turned into a giant mental health problem. And everyone is, not everybody, but the youth of America over here is completely fucked up. It's a completely ridiculous culture, and it's not going to survive. That's awesome, Mohammed. I mean, that's good to hear. I went through some shit, and I think, you know, it screwed me up, but I think I'm okay. I think I'm all right. I think I've found peace and meaning, and, you know, I think I'm okay. So all I'm doing is my best to make sure my boys are okay, because they got to have a strong mind and heart and soul to tackle the shit that's going to be coming in this world. The only thing I can do is make them grow to be good, strong, ethical, moral boys. You were screwed up for the 14 years you were married? Oh, harsh. I get it. Well, guys, I think I got to shut it down. I got to go do some shopping. I got to get my boys out of this house and go do a little shopping before the night gets too late. And I got to run the boys back to their mommy. So I'm going to close this down.
Yours.
You saw
Jesus.
something, didn't you?
Stupid. Anyway. Yeah, another fun one, guys. Thanks to everyone who stopped in. As always. Yeah, thank you, Mohammed, Count Shocula, D-Man, Sean, T, if you're still in there.